Recently, basketball player Sofia Kumninga from the American League caught attention on social media and gained worldwide recognition. In the middle of a game, she starts pointing at a player who was actually a man. Maybe at the time she didn't think that the simple gesture of pointing her finger would go viral. At that moment, Sofia could never have imagined that her gesture would represent the stifled cry of thousands of people who see in these orc agendas a true affront to morality, family, and decency, a distortion of reality. And often, if you criticize, you can be accused of some kind of phobia. But that's not what it's about. It's not about excluding people. It's about saying that right is right and wrong is wrong. Everything in its proper place. After all, if I put Fanta in a Coca-Cola bottle, it won't taste like Coca-Cola. If we put a Ferrari sticker on a Palio, the Palio won't go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. No. So why is it that a man who decides to wear a dress and say he's a woman can use the women's restroom or participate in games against female opponents, having a clear advantage? Sofia's action was so embarrassing for those who defend this agenda, which we call the orc agenda, that Estadão published an article trying to deny the facts. Published on September 31, 2026, they say the video is misleading. The video does not show a basketball player refusing to compete with a transgender woman. Sofia Kumninga pointed at the opponent in question during the game. But Estadão forgot, my brothers, that we are no longer in the era of manipulation. We're no longer in the time when only the mainstream media had the footage. So people either recorded on VHS tapes, meaning you had to have a blank tape ready to go, right? And even guessed that the footage would be important and recorded. It was really hard, literally, not anymore. Today we can rewatch something that was posted thousands of times, and Estadão is mistaken exactly about that. They keep doing the same old political games, the same old manipulation. Instead of showing that, yes, it was a silent protest, but it sounded like a very loud scream from those who are truly being oppressed, the conservatives. Watch this video with me here, showing even more context, and then you tell me if it is or not. See for yourself.
After review during the altercation, 3 technical fouls have been assessed.
My mind, Grace. The truth, my noble and dear brothers, hurts this group. But as we can see, this other athlete, a woman, she simply quits the competition in the finals when she sees who her opponent would be. Nothing more, nothing less than a man who claimed to be a woman. Knowing the physical advantage that this person would have, the athlete did not submit to the ridiculous role of being defeated by someone who has an advantage. She simply walked away. And honestly, that's how we could solve this. If teams, if national squads, if athletes in general started to abandon the competition, when they see that there are people who don't belong in that category inserted there by sheer force, I think things would start to change for the better. I'm sure of it. As Christians already know, salvation is individual, my brothers. It's up to each person to make their own decision. As long as we keep depending on governments to create laws to prevent this, literally, we will never get out of this cycle. Because it's a fact that there are several big industries that we know belong to 13 families, and these guys sponsor these causes. So when someone gets a few $1 million to become a politician and work on these causes, don't think that this person will think about the people, about what the people want when creating a law or supporting a cause. I'm Davi. Welcome to our channel. And today we're going to address a topic that has moved from behind the scenes of the ideological debate to the center of the sports world: the preservation of women's categories and the reaction against this woke agenda. Since I know you don't have time to waste and you're really curious to know how the White House gets involved in this story, well, it did get involved in this story. Grab your beans with egg farofa and roast beef right now, and let's start our segment, Señores do Mundo. Señores do Mundo. To understand the debate, we need to go back to the biological facts, because things are the way they are. High-performance sports are divided into categories by gender for purely anatomical and physiological reasons, not because of social impositions. Since puberty, the male body develops greater bone density, more muscle mass, greater cardiac and lung capacity, and a skeletal structure adapted for greater leverage and strength. Even after hormone treatments to suppress testosterone, studies show that the biological advantage retained by those who went through male puberty remains significant. When we allow biological men to compete in the women's category, the concept of fair play no longer exists. This is not about prejudice or hate, as Sofia Kumninga rightly emphasized, stating that she is acting out of love for the athletes in defense of the truth. This is about fairness in sports. And if biology is ignored in the name of ideological inclusion, the inevitable result is the exclusion of women themselves from podiums, scholarships, and the professional recognition for which they have trained their entire lives. The rotten article from Estadão that tries to deny the facts about Sofia's protest was so rotten that not even Rede Globo, yes, Globo itself, and we all know who it really serves, could support it. Not even they had the courage to deny the facts, and they included Sofia's statement. In their article, published in O Globo, it says the following: "I want to protect young women in locker rooms or young women in sports who shouldn't have to face biological men," she told ESPN in an interview published on a Tuesday. "I think it's a matter of common sense, and it's very important to protect children," she told reporters the next day before the Fever game. Not even the rotten network could miss it, since the girl didn't just make a gesture and stay silent. She kept talking and made it clear that this was indeed a form of protest. What Estadão forgot is that we are actually on social media. Even if Globo or other news portals, which are also reporting the same thing, didn't want to talk about it, preferred to sweep it under the rug. It's a fact that any of us could follow along, since the internet allows us to access any information in the world. That's what the old media forgets. What we're seeing today is the result of the unchecked advance of the so-called woke agenda, an ideological movement that tries to rewrite basic concepts of biological reality in the name of a false inclusion. For years, any athlete, coach, or commentator who dared to question the presence of male bodies in female sports was immediately labeled, attacked, and threatened with being professionally cancelled. Institutional pressure and that from the main sponsors silenced many voices. The extremism of this agenda reached the point of demanding that society pretend not to see the obvious differences between the sexes. When athletes like Sofia speak up and say enough, they break the spiral of silence. They show that most people notice the outcome of the situation, but often fear speaking out because of ideological policing. Protecting women's spaces is not an act of rejection against any group, but rather an act of preserving women's fundamental right to fair and safe competition. It is in this scenario of strong cultural tension that the political sphere takes on a central role. Donald Trump's administration made fighting the woke agenda one of its governing priorities and a defense of traditional values and common sense. In response to the repercussions of the Sofia Kumninga case, the White House was categorical. The spokesperson, Carolina Levitt, reinforced the president's position that men should not participate in women's competitions and publicly praised the athlete for her courage. The actions of the Trump administration go beyond rhetoric. They involve executive guidelines, cuts in federal funding for educational or sports institutions that disrespect the American federal law that guarantees equal conditions for women in sports. This is what ensures the strengthening of legislation that protects the integrity of biological categories. The Trump administration sees the imposition of gender ideology in sports as a symptom of broader extremism, which affects schools, public institutions, and social cohesion itself. That's why the government's response has been firm in restoring biology as the only basis for dividing sports categories. The case of Sofia Kumninga and the official reaction from the White House show that the debate has reached a turning point. This is no longer a peripheral discussion, but a battle for the preservation of biological truth and the defense of women's sports. We just want to ensure that future generations of girls and women can continue to dream of medals, records, and legitimate professional careers. Common sense needs to prevail over ideological dogmatism. The courage of athletes to take a stand, combined with strong public policies that combat woke extremism, is the way to restore justice, safety, and fairness in global sports. Although today, my brothers, many professionals, such as psychiatrists for example, are prohibited in countries like Brazil from offering any treatment. To reverse this ideological stance, which is even pejoratively labeled a gay cure, it was never about that, but it's literally about preventing a person who has this kind of choice from changing their mind if they want to. To this day, even though they have sought out and funded several studies, they have never found any G-cell. That simply doesn't exist. It's simply, as it always has been, a matter of choice, which should be respected but never encouraged. If you agree with this, go ahead and leave a like, share it, and show it to more people. Because, my noble and dear brothers, it's not easy to make this kind of video, especially with the rules as they are and almost everything being classified under the so-called protected groups. So be part of this fight by leaving a like and sharing so that more people can see the reality, which is not something simple but a complex plan to destroy values, morals, and decency. God bless you, my brothers. Take care, and we'll keep going together here on Encarando O Sobrenatural Official.